Let's see what's going on. I think Facebook might be having a glitch. Nope, there we are. Okay, so Instagram friends, thanks for being so patient. Facebook friends, Boker Tov and welcome. It's good to see all of you. It's broadcast 1360, Penny reminded us, and it is day 669 since October 7th. It's good to see all of you. I hope that you and yours are safe and well. Valerie, it's good to see you. Welcome, my friends. Facebook was giving us a hard time, so if any of you Facebook folks know any of us Instagram folks, you can thank them for being so patient while we restarted. Debbie and Andrew, Arlene and Amy, it's good to see you. Carl, Linda, Barbara, Adrian, Peter, Boker Tov. I'm sorry that you're lying on the couch with a cold or a flu. Refresh Lema, healing to you. Sending it all the way to Frankfurt. Ashley, good to see you. Hi, Jerry. Barbara. Okay, everybody, let's take a breath. We're going to sing a bracha. Holly, it's good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let's start our day. Okay, everybody. Good morning. I hope that you and yours are safe and well. It's broadcast 1360. It is day 669 since October 7th, and today would have been Ariel Bibas's 6th birthday. May his memory be for a blessing. May our skies be full of warm orange joy and love. It's Parshat VaEtchanan. It's the second Torah portion in the book of Deuteronomy, and we are in a place as a people that we've been waiting to get to. We are on the east side of the Jordan River. We've been wandering as two generations of Israelites for 40 years. And here we are on the cusp of realizing a promise that our ancestors knew about, because God has been promising for a long time that we would have our own home. This is a really important part of who we are as a modern Jewish people, to know that the promise began back when, and the fulfillment of it has been anything but simple. We've waited. They waited. We waited for 2,000 years of exile. They waited during 40 years of wandering, and before that, through the incredible tribulations that our people went through. But here we are, witness once again to standing on the edge of that promise on the east side of the Jordan River, where Moshe is giving his final speech, a tzavta, an ethical will. He prioritizes adherence to the mitzvot, and he makes sure that we understand, as I'll make clear in a moment, what happens if we do the right thing, and God forbid, what happens if we don't. And in doing so, he reviews parts of the story. Dvarim well, it's not English. In Greek, Deuteronomy is Deuteronomos. It is the second telling. It is a telling of the story since Egypt through Moses' perspective. And so, since he is not about to enter the land, his sadness and the urgency fill every verse. Some of the story we recognize because Parshat VaEtchanan includes highlights of the past, including the Shema and including the Ten Commandments. There are subtle differences that matter quite a lot between those two. And it is also the case that there are different dimensions that become revealed even within this week's Parsha. Because Shema, as you probably know, if you've been part of Jewish worship, of davening before services, you know that we say the Shema. It's the most important, it feels, part of Jewish prayer. That line, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. There are many translations of this, but as a very powerful, not dogma, but statement of faith, it could be understood as a statement, listen, Israel, listen, our ancestor Jacob. Our God, Adonai Eloheinu, that God is your God too. Don't worry, we're still here, loving and working and being your family. It can be testimony to the past. It can also be an acknowledgement that God is one, God is alone, and we are here to love God by loving God's creation. It can also be an understanding that there is only one God, that all the different facets of God, faces of God, as Campbell used to say, masks of God, are all ways of encountering the infinite. It can also be mysterious and we just don't know, but it is in chapter 6 of the book of Deuteronomy in this week's Torah portion. And we go directly from that line, Shema, into Ve'ahavta, and you shall love. It is so beautiful. It has been understood differently over time, but I take great comfort in being held by those words. Shema is beautiful. You shall love God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. It's right in this week's Torah portion, that very important teaching. Give everything we've got for the sake of holy vision. And that means that if we're truly going to live holy lives, direct ourselves in the ways that Torah as it unfolds calls us to do, we can't do so without taking risks sometimes, speaking up, fighting when we must for justice. A friend nearby, an Episcopal priest in Westchester, their daughter was picked up by ICE just 2 days ago. Out of nowhere, a high school senior who has a job, who has been here her whole life, whose parent is a fellow clergy member. And to not speak up is to ignore the other parts of this week's Parsha, which tell me to love my neighbor as I love myself. If I don't do something, if I don't say something, have I even heard the words of the Parsha? Why should it be a risk to fight for what is obviously just? Now, Kevin, my beautiful friend here, Father Kevin Weidinger, who I love with all my heart and all my soul and all my might, a fellow traveler, a brother of soul, and a priest, an Episcopal priest, now on the Upper West Side, but who used to be in Westchester nearby. He has been with me and with us through so much, and my friend, I'm with you too. To know that she has been released is a deep relief to all of our hearts. I saw that just this morning on a WhatsApp group some of us share. But she's one of many who have been disappeared. And this is something we have to hold ourselves accountable to, and we must be willing to take risks if we mean to truly be students of Torah. We cannot call ourselves faithful to the text or our tradition if we don't speak up. We are called to build what Dr. King called a beloved community, a society worthy of all the sacrifices of our ancestors. And thank God this young woman was returned home. but there are many, many who still should be returned home. And I ask you to remain vigilant, to be willing to take risks, because even if you don't use the verses of chapter 6 of Deuteronomy, they call to our ethical sensibilities, especially in this way. You can't love another if you don't put something on the line. What does love mean if it doesn't demand anything? It doesn't mean anything if it doesn't demand anything. Now, what's really interesting is that there are multiple paragraphs of the Shema in our tradition. In traditional Sidurim, there are usually 3 paragraphs. The "you shall love," and then the second paragraph begins with "V'haya'im Shemoah," and it will happen if you listen. That's chapter 11 of the book of Deuteronomy. We say them sequentially, and then there's a third paragraph that deals with the tzitzit, the fringes that we wear in our prayer shawls, and it's beautiful in sequence. But there are people who take issue with the second paragraph because chapter 11 of the book of Deuteronomy says very clearly, if you do listen, it will rain. If you don't, there will be no rain. And it sounds so harsh, and it is, actually. Why do we need that? Why, remember the context, why would Moshe impose this language as he's saying goodbye? The first one is so much nicer to read. Love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. Speak of this and our story and God on the way, when you sit, when you lie down, when you rise up. It's just so much easier to read and easier to pray. The second one says, if you listen, good, and if you don't, not good. In Yiddish, nicht geht. So I'm going to offer the observation of Rabbi Judith Hauptman, my teacher, my friend, an incredible, incredible scholar. She writes that when the rabbis instituted Jewish prayer, they decided to mandate the recitations of both versions of the Shema, chapter 6 and chapter 11 in our Parsha. But why include the first version, Ve'ahavta, and you shall love, if the second expanded version includes it already? Chapter 11 says, if you listen, good, and if not, not good. Chapter 6 just says, if love the Lord your God. So why include both? My guess, she said, I love how she writes that, it's very humble. My guess is that since the first opens with a statement of belief in one God in very clear and direct terms, which the second does not, the rabbis decided to make it the opening paragraph, even though the first paragraph, does not demand observance of mitzvot. Only the second does. The first one says love. The second one, meaning chapter 11, does make a demand. And both are therefore necessary, Rabbi Hauptman writes. First, tell the people to love God and the mitzvot without mentioning the consequences for doing so. And then tell them what happens if they stop loving God and observing the mitzvot. I want to speak in a very plain way about this, friends. The sequence in the services begins with love God and do right. The second paragraph says, love God, do right, and beware if you don't. Religion cannot be, tradition cannot be, theology cannot be, tradition cannot be, only the good stuff. Tradition is about living life as a work of art, as Heschel called us to do, knowing that there are consequences for not fulfilling it. If the core of Torah, if the core of our tradition is to love your neighbor as yourself, or as Hillel thousands of years later said, what is hateful to you, never do to someone else. If that's the core of tradition, then we can't just talk about the good parts. We can't. We have to talk about living life aware of its consequences. Our actions matter. One of my favorite scholars, rabbis, authors in Jewish history was Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin, who said, we are created in the image of God, but the language in Hebrew is Tselem Elohim. That's the image of God phrase. Elohim is one name of God. What does it mean? It means authority, because other names of God imply the other aspects of the divine. For instance, the word Adonai, which we say very, very rarely because of its power, is about the womb-like, nurturing, comforting, loving God. Elohim isn't a different God, it's a different face of God. It's the power and dominion and influence, and therefore, friends, Rabbi Chaim of Volozhin says we're created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of that aspect of God. What do we do with the power that we have been granted? That question presumes that we have power. And I ask you to remember that to your core. We're called to love God. That must demand the ethical use of the power that we have, the power that is inherent to being human, the power that is inherent to being created in the image. And so I invite us to think that through. The world will not encourage us to feel hopeful. It's not what history has taught us. It's not what these moments demonstrate. But we have to act. We have to act for each other. We have to take care of each other. If loving God with all our heart, our soul, and our might, chapter 6, is one part of this, the consequences of not loving God's image are also right there, chapter 11. Let's think this through and make sure that we choose our actions based on our obligations, not what's easier. For 669 days, this amulet, which is now grown rusty, has been on my chest. I'm sure you have some yourselves. Ribbons, prayers. Let's for a second send not just our thoughts, but our commitments to the 50 beloveds who are still being held, to their families, to the people who love them, to their children, to those who were hostages and have somehow come home, to the memory of a young boy, Ariel Bibas, who would have turned 6 today. We want all of the 50 home now. We want them home now. Send your hearts to the east, friends. Let's sing. Kol hod balevav pnima nefesh Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia od lo avda tikvateinu hatikva bat shnot 2000 להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. להיות עם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים. Bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. See you tomorrow, my friends.